Okay, libertarianism is the discussion this week. I think this is a very interesting ideology just because of the fact that it does have some benefits to it. However, as you think through it, you can obviously see uh, the obvious problematic or problems it could create. But first, it's kind of break it down the way the book and professor kind of looked at it. Um, when we look at libertarianism from a liberty perspective, it just means that we shouldn't be restrained or we shouldn't have to be forced to engage in things that we don't choose to. And we should be able to do whatever it is that we choose to. In the same way, in the economic perspective, when we're looking at the market, how we choose or what we choose to buy and trade is 100% up to us, and how much we choose to sell it for should not be subjected to any government regulations. Um, and again, it's a very interesting perspective because one of the things that I kind of want to look at this from would be um, when we think about the laws and the reason the laws are in place. Um, yes, some laws are passed to benefit a certain group or a certain interest or a certain company, whatever the case might be. But there are laws that are fundamentally passed that benefits everyone. So if you imply that my actions, because I choose to do them, then I should have the right to do them. Then what happens when that action have unintended consequences? One of the examples of this that the professor gave was um, if you have someone that decided to start using drugs, and the side effects that drugs would have, even though they decided to do it, it can have other effects on their family members. It can have effects in the way that they contribute to society and things of that nature. But what would the world really look like if we live in a totally libertarian world? I believe it wouldn't be as developed as it is today. Everything would be essentially privatized. There wouldn't be any hospitals. There wouldn't be public education. It doesn't mean there wouldn't be education. It just wouldn't be access to education. And I think the wealth gap that he mentioned, uh, definitely is a testament to too much privatization, too much restriction on assets due to lack of resources. Could you imagine in a state as big as Texas if there were only two schools? In all of Texas, I'm not even sure how many private schools there are, but assuming they have like five private schools, universities, how many Texans would have a college education? How many Texans would be able to pursue a career and eventually contribute to society in a positive way? Um, Even though libertarianism has areas where it does kind of it makes some really good points. And even though it does offer some benefits, I think the criticism far outweighs any benefits it could offer. Like for instance, when we talked about laissez-faire, the economical perspective that government should not regulate the economy. Okay, well, what happens when you have maybe a storm, kind of like we saw in Florida and we saw in Houston, where price gouging starts to happen because there's no sort of regulation on who can sell what or for how much you can sell it for. I can literally choose to sell a critical resource like water as high as I please. So it would definitely create more chaos. And the danger in that also expands into when we talk about laws that we pass to kind of keep everyone living in a cohesive society. If we didn't have these laws, what's going to happen to maybe certain people of certain demographics or certain ethnic groups or certain um, sexual preference? These people are more likely to be subjected to hate crimes and things of that nature. So, yes, I think libertarianism does have some benefits, but if we really look at it and we really think about it, it wouldn't work in today's world. It's just impossible to have absolute freedom, do as you please. Crime would be rampant. Greed would typically drive the economy down. That's going to lead to more people displaced, and that's kind of where we're at now with looking at the political climate. We do have what seems to be a hostile environment, and a lot of this comes from individuals that feel that their preference and their actions are their sole right, and failure to consider other people's preference or action. So that's kind of my take on libertarianism.